Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 11th episode of eCommerce Growth Show. Hello, Andre, all the way from
Hi.
Germany. Nice,
Hi, Martin. Hi.
nice having you here. It's an honor, and hopefully now the connection will go well because
Yes. I
the
upgraded. I have a 300 megabit fiberglass connection here, so nothing should happen.
at your home, right?
Yes, like everybody else.
How
Yeah.
else? Yeah. So let me give a quick introduction. So, hey guys, André Morys is the CRO authority coming from Germany. He's the co-founder of Global Optimization Group and konversionsKRAFT. He's an author, university lecturer, and speaker. So you don't want to miss this episode. So shut off all the other tabs, everything, focus, and let's pick the brains of Andre. Andre, thanks a lot for
Yeah.
joining us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. You just need, it remembers me like a Rocky 4 movie. You just need some music now, like Van Halen Jump or whatever, to push up the energy a little bit. You did that very well.
Great. So let's start Andre by telling us your story. So I'm asking this as the first question all our guests here. How you've got into the optimization arena in the first place?
By mistake, to be honest. I wanted to be audio engineer. I studied that and on a private school, so I needed money. I earned some money because I know how to use a computer. So I made some graphics design, internet. I had an account. I learned how to develop websites with HTML, Netscape 2.0 Gold. That's how you could do the programming work in HTML back in the 90s. And yeah, quickly people came to me and said, I heard you can do a website for us. And I said, yeah, sure. And yeah, so quickly I earned more money with building websites for people than with studying. So I stopped the studies, never made it to a proper audio engineer. Yeah, here I am. But I mean, if you ask in detail about optimization, I have to confess that for the first 10 years, I pretended with my agency or company to be like an interactive agency, to be very creative. So we developed Flash intros and all that fancy stuff for people. But we quickly realized that we like methodology, and the system and operationalize success factors. It was really boring back in like the beginning of the 2000s. Everybody started with Google AdWords. So Google AdWords and pulling traffic, massive traffic on the side was a big thing. So we had a hard time at the beginning of the millennium with our systematic approach of user research. Everybody's like, what? We scale with traffic, we don't need that shit. It's complicated.
Don't make me
I
think.
would say it really took off like in 2008, 9, 10, around that. Yeah.
Excellent. So at this moment, Andre, you are running one of the most successful optimization companies, digital optimization companies in Europe. How you've got here? What was the, let's say, if there are some successful experiments to be able to craft a company that is actually working and delivering on its promise, which are those from your experience? Not as an optimizer, but
as an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
I would say healthy paranoia. I'd always had the ambition to give the best, because I was always afraid that some competitors will take it from the business from us if they start to get better. We were happy to have like an early mover advantage around 2008, 9, 10 when we started our blog. So we've been always paranoid. So we always improved our systems and ourselves. So kind of we ate our own dog food. So we tried to find out what's the reality of our customers, what's making them buy at us, what do we do really good, and from there we optimized it. So and we still have, we sell optimization full service retainers that are around 200 to 600K a year, and I can tell you there's nobody in the world saying, oh gosh, I have that $500,000 budget. What should I do with it? Maybe call André. So it's still a hard job to make people understand that continuous optimization is a fundamental success factor for their digital growth. It's not that things come easy. So we still have to learn and understand the reality of our clients. And I think that's where we're good at. Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of the mentalities, do you think that COVID-19 has changed the mentalities of decision makers within the companies to be more eager to test, to experiment, to see how things are working? What have you seen?
I've seen all. I would say in the last 4 months, I've seen all. I've seen completely catatonic, shocked managers that stopped everything. I've seen some that had to stop everything. I've seen companies that want to accelerate now, especially now, so they have a good starting position when they come out of the crisis. I see people that just continue like it is. So I would say there are a lot of different facets depending on the personality of the people. Yeah.
Yeah. So it all gets down to how people are responding to this. It's not like so personality is the most important factor on how companies are responding, right? The personality of the decision makers.
Yeah, often the whole organization is a big projection of the owner's or CEO's personality. So if the CEO is a very systematic approach, you can a systematic person, you will see that the whole company works very systematic. If the founder is more like chaos, the whole company will be chaos. So I usually say organizations are a reflection of values of a group of people influenced mostly by the leadership. So many companies try to find out their core values or define them. Bullshit. And you won't bring them to life because you printed a paper or PDF out of it. You know, it actually the culture of a company is a reflection of the values of the leadership. So no surprise that if the top management is personality A, they will attract people from that kind of personality. It will enforce this kind of personality. So yeah, a company culture is like a organization's personality, I think.
Yeah. So if we want to change a company's destiny, what you're saying is that we should focus on the mentality of their leaders, right?
Sure. In German, there's a quote or a saying that is the dead fish starts from the head.
Yeah, we have the same here.
You have the same. How do you say in Romanian? What is it?
It's exactly the same.
Yeah, and it is like this. And a lot of times, if we see any constraints that block us from proper experimentation, it's a weak culture, it's weak management, it's wrong management of agile teams, it's pretending to be busy, it's superficial customer centricity. All these things always starts with the management. So I'm sorry if any managers are here. I'm completely bashing you, making you responsible for the whole shit.
Yeah. So we also have I have one of my let's say business mentors here in Romania, and he told me at some point I was really down. Everything was falling apart. I wasn't hitting my quota and all my all the things back in 2017. I was like, and I was
what's going on?
And he told me something really nice. So if you want to find out what's going on, you have to do this thing. And I was tell me. So go to the bathroom, open the door, and there's a rectangle there, and you'll see the person which is responsible.
Yes. Yeah. That's what is called as ownership. You know. Yeah. Always take full ownership.
André, about ownership and shallow customer centricity. We are hearing all these buzzwords like customer centricity, machine learning, AI, buyer persona, ICP. a lot of buzzwords.
Oh, what's
But
ICP? I don't know that one.
ideal customer profile.
Oh, that's good. Okay, never heard about that.
Yeah,
I learned something. Thanks.
jobs to be done. A lot of methodologies, a lot of things, but it all, at least from where I'm seeing the reality, it all goes back to the basics, like freaking care about your customer and don't pretend that you care. I mean, hear his voice, look at what he's saying, and you have this, let's say, methodology around how to find what keeps your customers from buying. So we've actually advertised this session as 5 quick wins to find out what blocks your customers from buying. So tell us more about this, because it's surely coming from a systematic person that has seen a lot in this space.
Yeah, exactly. And the problem is that, you know, there's another saying, or quote, I don't know how to translate it properly. It says, if you're dumb, you might not recognize it. It's just a problem for the others, you know. And the problem is the same. Is for example, if you think you're customer centric, you don't realize that you might be just pretending to be customer centric. I'd say 90% of, or even 99% of the companies I see, of the teams I see, the product teams, they think they are really customer centric. They have their design thinking workshops and they create their fantasy personas, and they have that chaka mentality and say, yeah, ideation workshop for the win. Actually, they never talked to a customer, they never saw a customer, or it's months ago, and user research is done by this other guy in the other department. And so what they think is a customer reality is just their projection of customer reality. And the problem is you can't feel the difference. So when I observe these teams in workshops, I have one way to find out how customer-centric they really are. And as I observe what words they are using when they're talking to each other and what topics they're discussing. And for sure, if you realize they're talking about elements on the website and templates and customer journeys and funnels and this thing, I guarantee you they're not really customer centric. They're just projecting their own reality into the customer. And that's completely wrong. So for me, customer centricity starts with talking about the motivation of customers. What was the trigger point when they decided to buy something, and why, and what problem do they think it should solve, and what are their fears, and what are their motivations, what do they expect from purchasing something, for example. And as long as people are not talking about this as a foundation for their concept, I bet they're not customer centric. They're just pretending to be customer centric. And I see that 99% of the times. Why? Because it's so much damn easier to pretend it. And if your management doesn't enforce you, there are these stories of Jeff Bezos calling customer service in the middle of a meeting, waiting for 3 minutes, firing a whole department because it took too long for him. This is, it's a harsh story. This is not how you should treat your employees.
Yeah.
But it shows how really obsessed this guy is with customer satisfaction. So, and if there is not that one person in your organization that has that value and that benchmark in his mind, really pushing forward customer centricity, it actually won't happen. So this is why people are allowed to kind of live that superficial version of customer centricity. So yeah, that's why it's easy to pretend being customer centric. And I think it shouldn't be that complicated. This is why I suggested to talk about 5 real quick wins that you can apply. If you like, you can apply them this afternoon. That's my promise. You don't need much longer.
Perfect. You've raised the curiosity level.
And yeah.
So, Andre, don't boil us. Tell us one of them. So let's explore the first one.
Yeah, I think something that helped us a lot, for example, is something that's really easy to implement. And this is, if somebody becomes a customer, ask one question, because this is a very important moment that just happened. Somebody made a decision for you, and now it's about finding out why this person made this decision. So I would recommend, I mean, depending on your business, ask people, what was the main reason why you have chosen us? Why did you become a customer? You will learn so much about it. And you know, people say you should focus on your strength, right? And interesting is that most companies don't know why their customers are their customers, right? So I would say my tip number one is implement it somewhere in your e-commerce tool, e-business, whatever you have. So if an order comes in from a new client, directly send a mail, say, thanks for your purchase. We're really keen to understand why you've decided to buy from us. I think this is this can turn to a constant stream. And of course, it's a qualitative question. You know, it's not data. It's it's qualitative insights or qualitative data. But I like qualitative insights more. But so you will get a constant feedback. It might be harder to analyze that compared to data, where you can just draw a graph and see are things okay or not. But you want to learn why and what you have to change. So think that most people say, I think you have the best customer service. And you think, well, why the hell are people thinking that? So, but then you can enforce that message, and because you see there's some relevance. My clients want customer service. I focus on customer service. Yeah. People say, I think you have the best prices. Focus on either you're really big and can negotiate harder, and you focus on prices, might be expensive, but you could also focus on how to present prices, you know, price psychology, things like that. You learn tons from that very first question.
Excellent.
And I only know a few clients, mostly our clients, that ask that question. So you should do that.
Excellent. So in terms of this, do you think this is actually going to become a quantitative insight as well? Because the more questions that you have, the more data you have. So if you have thousands of people that are answering you have the top 3 reasons why your customers are buying, you can actually monitor this with your nice
For example, you can start clustering them, understanding keywords inside the answers, whatever, build tag clouds, do whatever you want. But important is this is a qualitative answer, and it's the correlating qualitative answer to the quantitative measure you already have, and that's your conversion rate. You know, you have a conversion rate, and this is the result of these decisions. You just don't know why. So I like to make it perfect by telling you, do the qualitative part of it, and ask all your existing clients. They're already motivated. These are no clients where you risk something by just asking them. Yeah. And the second question that goes together with that question, so this is like level 2 for the advanced people. Of course, everybody who buys somewhere had alternatives in their mind. So this is also the ideal moment to ask a second question that is like, what nearly blocked you from buying at us?
Yeah.
And this is where you can find, I mean, the first one makes it possible for you to improve on your existing strength. The second one maybe unveils some of your competitors or risks or problems that you might not be aware about. So, I mean, you can try it out.
I'm a big fan of that,
Yeah. It's really important. You learn a lot. And each time, you know, we do this for our own as well. So we also ask every new client that question. And I'm always disappointed if a client says, no, nothing. There was no barrier. We always planned to buy from you. And I thought, damn it, I'd like to learn something.
Damn it, I could have asked for more.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and of course you can play around with that question. You can ask, if you wouldn't have bought from us, where else would you have bought, or what have been your alternative? And maybe you're surprised that the alternative solutions from a client perspective are not that amazing as you think, and maybe some answers also will surprise you. Like for us, we realized for many of our clients, the most dangerous alternative was doing nothing or doing it on our own. I mean, we are in the B2B service business, so this is different compared to e-commerce websites. But yeah, you learn tons from asking questions like that. What blocked you? What would have been your alternative? And this is something that you can implement in your system as a continuously stream. That's why I say it costs you maybe this auto mailer costs you maybe an hour to set it up. So just do it.
Yeah, pretty easy thing to do with a lot of outcomes, because I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs that and e-commerce managers as well that are struggling with their initiatives and projects and innovation, but they are freaking not asking anything on their customers, and there's so much value out there. So they are leaving all these opportunities down in the past, and they are running for more customers, which might never come back, and they don't know why. And they
Yes.
at some point when they realize that, hey, our retention rate, and why is it so low, or let's measure it, and then they realize, okay, you have 300,000 customers and 280,000 customers placed a single order on your website.
Yes. Yeah. Or even worse, I see many companies that pay for the same client on and on and on. You know, they acquire some of their clients 4 to 5 times a year, and they pay to Amazon, or they pay to Google, or wherever they advertise. And I said, damn, you completely missed to invest in your client retention. Yeah, you're losing so much money. Your marketing so inefficient, and you just don't know it because you think, oh well, if somebody converted. I said, no, that was an existing client. Look at that. So yeah, when you analyze your cost of acquisition, I know that many companies have a very broad approach and collect all the costs and divide it through all the new clients. That's wrong. Look specifically at channels and who did you acquire, and make sure you didn't acquire existing customers again.
Yeah, that's a thing that I had. Our last guest was Jesse Horwitz from Hubble Contacts, and this guy is coming from the VC world. He was all about the numbers, about the internal return rate, customer lifetime value, and so on. And when I asked him around the, let's say, the North Star metrics for handling an e-commerce, he said that it's pretty easy. It has to do with the customer experience and with the customer lifetime value, and how much you are actually spending to acquire that customer. Unfortunately, the e-commerce entrepreneurs, or maybe it's a thing here in Europe, I don't know, I don't have the data to support it, but maybe the e-commerce entrepreneurs need to level up their understanding about their game. And recently I realized that, what if the e-commerce growth formula is wrong? I mean, the generally used e-commerce growth formula has to do with traffic, has to do with conversions, has to do with revenue, but these are not what is causing the e-commerce to grow. What is causing the e-commerce to grow is the word of mouth, the NPS, the customer retention, and things that are not so obvious. And the e-commerce owners and managers as well are not monitoring those.
Look at Amazon. You know what's the most important metric to them? Customer lifetime value. That's all that matters. Everything else, vanity or proxy metric. You know, just a proxy metric, one part of the funnel that is not a reliable predictor for what comes later. You know, and I see all the companies wasting money in marketing, building tons of landing pages and testing around. I don't want to say it's wrong to test, but don't focus your tests only on customer acquisition. You know, if you're in e-commerce, then it's so much more about retention. You earn your money with a second or third order, and I see so many weak concepts of pure email marketing bullshit where nothing is a predictable outcome. I agree.
Yeah. So Andre, what is the next quick win?
The third quick win.
Yeah.
This is a really old one, but it's one where I still see it is not executed properly or rarely. And it's a good old 5-second test, because I see so many, thinking about your customer's reality is kind of out of the box thinking. So it's so hard. If you work inside your company, you know too much, you can't read the label from inside the bottle. That's what they say, and it's so hard for people, but they don't make any effort to get out of that bottle. And I always think there's one very easy exercise that everybody can do, no matter if you're in a product team or wherever. Print out your website prototype, landing page, homepage, whatever you're working on. Print it out on a classical sheet of paper, go out and just ask random people that don't know you and don't know your business, what do you think is this about? So show the print 5 seconds, turn it away and say, what was that all about? And then let it come. People will say, oh, that was too fast. Can you show it again? I say, no. First impression counts. So what do you think is this all about? And you will learn tons of misunderstandings on your website, because you try to give the best out of your perspective, which is from inside the bottle, and now people are looking from outside the bottle, and they completely get it wrong. And I'm always fascinated with the stories that have people in their minds. I'm sure there's even a name for that, cognitive bias. So people see something and they instantly make a whole story about it. I remember we had an e-commerce client that sold beach things. So they had, it was summertime. So like these plastic balls and whatever, hammocks.
Yeah.
But there was a picture of a beach with a blue sky and all these articles on sale. Problem was, there was a typo, and that was in yellow. And the German Automobile Club is a very famous logo type in exactly that yellow. And there was also a plane in the sky. Had nothing to do with the articles they sold. But when we did this 5-second test and we asked people, what is this about? And they said, they're now selling travel. That's interesting. I didn't know that. I'm sure they do it with the German Automobile Association. Looks like this. I know they're selling travels. And they had stories in their mind, how cheap these travels are, if it's a good idea to sell travels or not. And I said, no. They're just selling these kind of balls for leisure, and hammocks and stuff for kids to play at the beach. And people were, no, this is about travel. It was just this little implicit code of the plane inside the teaser. And that's just to tell you, I think we called it, it's like a movie in their head, what's going on. So it's one implicit code and blah, blah, blah. It triggers one whole area.
Exploding,
Exactly. It triggers one area of the mind. That's how the mind is working, with associations. Exactly, and it's going boom. So, but the same happens if you show people your website. They can immediately tell you how experienced is your company, when was it founded, how many people work there, how good is the quality, is there a customer service or not. People will be able to tell you all that stuff just by looking at your website for 5 seconds. And this is because people have that system one in their brain, and it's important to rely on very quick decisions. And the thing is, once people have these kind of stories in their mind, you can't get them away. They exist. Like prejudice, you can't remove it. So this is why I think it's so damn important to know about the implicit perception of your website, because your designer thought it's fancy, it looks cool, but for your audience it means something completely different, like you're expensive. I saw so many redesigns when the responsive technology came up like 10 years ago, and because of you need like white space, or you need space for elements to scale. So many companies lost millions of euros just because they changed the price perception of their website. They were not aware about the fact that this kind of white room triggers the perception of price. Right? A lot of room on the website implies high price. It was just a technical constraint, you know. So somehow these elements have to adapt to your screen size. So this is just about the importance of implicit codes, how they make prejudice in the mind of the customer, and how this could completely harm your conversion rate finally.
Yeah. So I really love that, because this is the same principle that goes into sales as well. It was that famous Mark Twain's quote, like, I haven't got time to write you a short letter, so here it is. I wrote you a long letter. So you have to think it over and to bring down the essential characteristics and the benefits, so that customers in only 5 seconds get it, because that's why your bounce rate is so high, and that's why when you look in Google Analytics, you have, I don't know, 40% of your visits are less than 10 seconds or 9 seconds.
Exactly. And you are blind on that eye, you know. It's like you know, it's like if you have a glasses on and your shades, and they have a red color, you know, you won't be able to see red things on a white wall. But your clients don't have that glasses on, that shade, so they see all that stuff. For you, it's impossible to see it because you know too much. You did it that way because you think it's right. So you can't judge your website based on your own perception. You need that client perspective. And that's why I think permanently conducting 5 seconds tests and learning out of it and creating hypotheses out of it and just testing these hypotheses, it will, generate tons of money.
Love that. I love that, André. So far, 3 quick wins. Let's recap. Ask your visitors the main reason that they've chosen your company and that why they placed the order. The second tip is ask your visitors after they place the order what made them almost not buy from you. And the part is do this freaking 5 second quick test, right? Put strangers in front of your website and let them 5 seconds to look at it, and then ask them what they've seen over there.
And do that permanently. All of these questions, I mean, you can do it once, but it's 100 times better to do it permanently, you know.
Continuously track it.
And I guess you want to know quick win number 4.
Yeah, exactly. Here we are.
I have to confess, I'm a big fan of the jobs to be done framework. You mentioned that earlier. And we understood as optimizers, we have to focus on certain parts of the customer journey. We have to know where are we starting, where do we have the biggest growth potential, what are our levers. And I realized that most entrepreneurs, e-commerce people, they only focus on a small part of the customer journey. And this part is the part where people already know that they want to buy something. That's from the customer's perspective, the very end. But the customer journey is so much longer. And during that period before, the customer journey is triggered with expectations and ideas and all this construction of motivations and fears, and so comes in this area. And I'm also a big fan of this model called the 5 stages of awareness by a guy called, what was it, Schwartz? I don't know. And he says, you know, in an early stage, people are not even aware that they have a problem that needs to be solved. So guess where the biggest market potential sometimes is. And in the second stage, maybe people know that they have a problem, but they don't know the solution. And then comes the stage where people know that there is a solution for that problem. Then they start researching what is there on the market. And as soon as they know that, they have to choose. And this is maybe where you now start thinking in terms of online marketing, how to target the right people. And then comes the stage where they finally decide and buy. So in the 5 stages of awareness, these levels are exactly named in that direction. This is just a very abstract model.
Yeah.
But it's your job to find out what triggers customers from one level to the next. Because what you see as a funnel is just a very low end. The funnel is much bigger. And you have to understand that funnel. So this is why I'm a big fan of the jobs to be done framework, because the idea of the job to be done framework is to find out what triggers your customers to go from level to level. And this is why in the jobs to be done framework, you ask people who already purchased something. It doesn't have to be your clients, but if you're selling the sports things, then you should ask people that already bought sports things online. And you ask them, and you start very early in the customer journey. You ask them, for example, what triggered your idea that you need that? So what was the situation? What was your very own aha moment where you learned you need to buy this and that online?
Yeah.
And there you learn a lot about the motivation of your customers and the different stages they go through and how they create their opinion before they come to your website. So this is where I think this is the only thing that is maybe a little bit more complex, but it's also no rocket science. There are many free resources about the jobs to be done framework. The framework not only asks for these different stages, where I'm especially interested in this very early stages, it also tries to differentiate functional factors versus emotional or social factors, which is important because, you know, if people buy a BMW, it's not a functional reason, you know, it's an emotional reason, and they earn 10 times more money with the emotional reason than with a functional one. So I think it's very important to make this kind of research to understand the whole customer experience. Yeah, so this is why job to be done framework is my tip number 4.
Yeah. However, we had the pleasure the honor to have here Bob Moresta, and he's been a guest of our podcast, and he actually made this funny let's say test directly on me. I was moving to another home, and he deconstructed my decision-making process. And I thought I've decided 2 weeks, and I've just said it was such a quick move. And he said, yeah, let me ask you something. So eventually he got back to 1.5 years since together with my wife, we've decided that we need a garden. We need a bigger garden so that we can see the kids playing and whatever. So it was such a great episode. And the outcome of the jobs to be done methodology is this let's say interrogation. We've made it for our own customers afterwards, and it was such a fun and engaging and revealing, eye-opening process for us to realize why we are actually selling OmniConvert to our customers, because we've got our assumptions and agendas, and actually the most of the customers were, and that was really fun, and I must confess this, most of the customers that used to buy our A/B testing tool, they weren't buying it to improve their websites, their businesses. The underlying reason was that they wanted to keep their jobs, right? So the professionals were feeling threatened by the fact that their customers weren't performing that well, and it was like a pressure on them to actually start to deliver
and to prove the outcome of their work
to the company, and to demonstrate, okay, this is my seat, and I'm actually having a positive ROI to my company. It was wow.
So this is I'd say compared to the first 3 tips, this is maybe the most strategic one, because exactly you can. This is all these insights are a good foundation for also many strategic decisions about your products, your company, your selling propositions, what makes you unique, and especially how do you match that with the demand and with the reality and the motivations that your customers have in their mind. That's what it's all about. I love the quote from Ray Dalio, the billionaire that wrote that book, Principles. Yes, he said that a deep understanding of truth is always or is the only foundation for producing good outcomes. And this is where people suck at. This is why I hate this artificial or superficial customer centricity. This doesn't produce great outcomes. Only if your innovation is corresponding with the need of your customers and you're making their lives better, then you will earn money. Everything else is a waste of time. And I see 99% of all innovations are just bullshit based on superficial customer centricity. And somebody tries to be important, and no, that's not the right way. So do your strategic homework, and I can encourage you, find many people that also at least participate in that interviews, or you let them make the interviews. Making job to be done interviews is not rocket science. Everybody can do it. You might feel uncomfortable with the very first 3 interviews, but when you have taken like 2 hours time to have like 5, 6, 7 interviews, you feel like a pro, and you will have 3 pages of handwriting with ideas that come in your mind because you did not understand the customer's reality properly before. So this is where you get a much bigger picture of the customer's reality. And as I say, it only takes 2 hours to make 10 of these interviews. Reserve your 2 hours for next week, research the methodology, ask some questions. You can just learn, you cannot fail. Repeat it next week, invite some colleagues, repeat. Yeah. And you will see you can't create this same intensity of reality if you tell your colleagues what you observed. That's why I think it's important that they have the same experience. So let as many people as possible do these kind of interviews in your company.
Yeah, excellent.
That's a way out of the customer or superficial customer centricity trap.
Yeah, I also must add something here, André, with your if you agree, the beauty of the jobs to be done is the fact that it allows marketeers to understand that it's not always a matter of the right targeting, but it's a matter of the conditions that are working together. So it's not to whom you are targeting, but under which circumstances.
Yes.
Because it's a matter of what happened to the customer, under which circumstances, what was the struggling moment that made them say, okay, I'm going to buy this.
Yes,
because
exactly.
It has to reach the critical mass, so that you say, this worth to pay, I don't know, 1,000 euro or 300 or whatever.
And what's important to me, it's like the conversion rates. There are many more conversion rates that you just don't know, that you completely miss because you don't understand the whole funnel. There's a conversion rate of people that have a problem and don't understand that there's a solution for it, for example. And there's even a conversion rate for people that have a problem but don't understand their problem.
From unaware to aware,
Exactly, and so on. So you miss 100 times the amount of people in your funnel because you just don't understand that part of the funnel. That's why I think it's so effective to work with the jobs to be done interviews.
Yeah, excellent. So André, drum rolls. What is the
tip number 5? That's actually exactly. That's actually maybe the most strategic question, and it's the only question you don't ask to your clients. So, but it can also be a quick one, because it's a question you should ask yourself. And the question is, how do I become a habit for my clients? In Germany, many people look at Amazon and feel that this disruptive growth in every negative way. You know, there's e-commerce people. I think Amazon in Germany is growing to 20 billion euro revenue this year. And it's such a dominating thing. And you know why? Because Amazon is a habit. So if I ask in Germany people, how often did you buy there? Most people can't tell you, because it's hundreds of times, sometimes many times a day 3 times a day. And why is it like this? Because Amazon understood from a behavioral sciences point of view how habits are formed. If you want to create a habit, it's like a loop. So things that you want to do have to be easy to be repeated. And every time you repeat something, you need like a reward, and to repeat something, you need a trigger. So it's a very easy system on a psychological point of view. I can recommend the book Hooked here from Nir Eyal, great speaker, very intelligent guy, who kind of deconstructed the principles of how to form a habit. And I think this might be, I solved, or I asked that questions many times in workshops with my clients, and without any psychological background, without reading the book, after understanding the principles, they were easily able to understand, damn, we forgot the trigger. Damn, we forgot the reward. Damn, it's not easy. So if you understand the principles of habits, I would say, compared to the funnel that you have to learn that you don't know, I said it's 100 times more people in your funnel than you're aware about. It's the same to focus on client retention and client loyalty and habit forming behavior. I would say there's 100 times more in making your clients buy for the second or 200th time compared to winning new clients on and on and on. I see so many entrepreneurs and managers are focused on short-term results, next quarter, next year, whatever. I know it's more complicated to focus on long-term results and sustainable results, but it's worth it. So deconstruct that big task of creating habits in smaller chunks and start working on it. So this is also a thing that you can do in your product team, with your product people, or with your core team, or if you're a very small company, on your own. But start thinking about, how does my business model become a habit? Everybody's talking about flywheels, fancy flywheels. Yeah, that's it. You can call it flywheel from the business point of view, but from the consumer's point of view, it means it's a habit.
Yeah.
And there's that research about habits that says, that, for example, they asked people in cinemas, are you usually buying this popcorn? Do you say popcorn in English? Corn? Yeah. So, and there were two groups: people that usually buy popcorn for the cinema, and people who don't. And they served both groups different versions of the popcorn. And the funny thing is, they served people with a habit of buying popcorn all times. They served old popcorn that was some hours old. And it's not that crunchy and not that tasty as the other one. But guess what? The group that don't have a habit recognized it immediately. The others not, because it's like a thing where in your brain it drops directly to that kind of easier state. If you know already something and how to do it, it's easier to do it the same way, and you don't judge it in the same intensity because you're used to it. So, and this is what happens with people here in Germany. So immediately when they think about, I need this and that from the internet, it's Amazon. There's no rationalization going on, So that's the power of habits.
Unconscious actions that you keep on doing without being aware, right?
Yeah. So, and it's, if you want to increase your personal health and fitness, people, and you want to start walking, your fitness coach or whoever, your personal trainer, will focus on forming a habit, because psychologists know that as soon as you repeated something for a certain amount of times, it's more likely that you continue with that repetition, right? Yeah. So this is why it's important to get that damn wheel rolling, So you just have to start at a certain point, and then you can stop acquiring the same customer again and again.
Yeah, love that.
But yeah, you saw this was like, now my 5 tips were like on an increasing level. So the latest tip is maybe the most strategic after the jobs to be done framework, the one that you don't ask your clients but yourself, where you work on strategy and business model and client retention. But from all of these different questions, with these answers, you earn tons of money, guaranteed.
Yeah. At the moment when at the first moment that when I've read the Charles Duhigg book and The Power of Habit, and then I've got the privilege to meet and to interview and to have an episode of our podcast with Nirael when we met in San Francisco at Growth Marketing Conference, and he was so passionate about the habits, and I realized that even though we are doing all these things unconsciously, I'm actually hypnotized about the importance of habits. Back in 2017, I've made this self improvement matrix to monitor my habits, even going on the opposite way of actually having the freedom to live in the moment, right? So I was a slave of my own schedule, right? This is 7 o'clock. I must play with the kids, and that actually became awkward. But what I have to say around the habits from a business perspective is not so hard to.
No, it's not. You just need to understand the psychological principles of habit forming. And, I always show people, or a lot of times I deconstruct the Amazon customer experience into the psychological principles. And of course, that you're already logged in, that it's so easy to just have a second purchase. You don't have to log in again. You're already logged in. It's that easy to make things easier than the same day or next day shipping. You get the reward quickly. This is the reward. You want. People have this highest emotional activation when they're unpacking their things. So it is important that at Amazon it says buy now with one click and you get it immediately. That's important for the habit loop and the reward. And to use Amazon Prime as a trigger, people already pay $70 to be a Prime member, of course, because of the videos and reading the Washington Post. That's what everybody does. No, but of course, people also say, "Oh, damn! I already spent $70 for Amazon Prime. I have to get the most out of it." So it's also a psychological pattern, consistency and commitment, that makes people buy more in this flywheel. It's like a booster of the habit loop, and this is so clever, business-wise. Exactly. And I see so many. We just proposed to an NGO company. I think this week on Tuesday, we proposed to create for the donors to have like a we call the pattern unlocking. So you collect points for the amount of money of your donation. And we said, make a list, make a score, and do gamification. And they said, "Oh, this will be so complicated. We don't know how to do it." And I said, "You know what? This is people want to make an impact. You don't give them any reward for the impact. So how do you think you can create a habit loop?"
Yeah, you are in the top 1% of the donors.
Whatever. We thought about the unlocking pattern, so where you have different missions, like you have to donor something for food, you have to donor something for this and that and education, and for each different kind of donor, you unlock a certain badge. That works. That's it. Oh, but then we have to connect it with a database, and then we have data privacy issues. We don't know how to do it. And I thought, damn, build an MVP, test it, prove the value, and then take it to the next step. So I see so many people are hesitant about their investment in client loyalty and retention.
Yeah,
that's wrong.
We have a thing in Reveal about the chances to play the next order, and we had this debate about when should companies focus on retail analytics and habit forming, and when they should be tracking things that like the customer lifetime value and all these things. And I had a chat with an e-commerce entrepreneur that said, "Wow, this is fantastic. Now I have a new mission after I've looked at this data. Tell me, what's the mission?" So my mission is to move this 25% to 75%. What is the 20%? The chance to place the next order. So after the first order, I need to move them. So these chances are so low. So from 25% to 75%, that means my business is going to do 10x. And he actually got it. But the data is there in front of you, and people keep on doing their old habits of believing that putting more money on Facebook ads is going to move the needle for them.
No.
Acquiring more customers is going to make their company thrive. But under these circumstances where you have so much innovation to invest, I mean, you can really start treating your customers better. You can delight them with the small things, small emotional things that you can do. And actually,
and I see in many companies there are great ideas, but they're negotiated to death. So, for example, we have one client that sells pet supplies. 60% of it is food, cat food, dog food. So they already know when this will be empty. So they just have to send a trigger email saying, we think your dog food must be empty in the next 2 to 5 days. You want to order a new one? Just click, that's it. And they say, yeah, great idea. And then say, so how can we test it? Oh, but then we have to talk with the CRM guys. And then we have this problem, this. So I see, maybe this is my bonus tip. Fixed mindset is destroying great ideas. So change your objections towards the solution way of thinking. So always ask yourselves, how might we do this next thing? How might we simulate it, build an MVP, prove the value, whatever has to be done to stop the critiques. So the bigger your company is, the higher probability that this shit happens and destroys millions of revenue.
Yeah. Andre, one question for you. We've seen this transition from CRO. I mean, we've been in the CRO industry.
What's that, CRO?
Yeah, CRO. So
we never heard about it. Like ICP, CRO, IPO.
or ICO, but it's already obsolete, this ICO thing. So, Andre, do you think that this industry of conversion rate optimization has let's say, the chance to transform into something greater and more strategic? So instead of fixing websites and user experience things, we could be fixing companies and mindsets and shifting focus of the company from improving sub-channel, which is the website, to improve the whole customer journey. Do you think it's going to evolve into customer value optimization?
I tell you, you know what? There are already companies doing that, and they don't call it CRO. So look at McKinsey, Accenture, PwC, whatever. They do this on a much bigger scale. And I think I'm always a big evangelist for the idea not to call it conversion rate optimization. One easy story is give away all your articles for free. You will have a conversion rate of 100%, but you will be bankrupt in 2 days. So optimizing the conversion rate is actually not what we want. Better to focus on revenue per visitor, or even profitability, or customer lifetime value. I think the problem that most people have is the further away you go from the current metric, the conversion rate is a life metric time-wise. So you can measure it for right now. Customer lifetime value is a metric that takes weeks or months, for some people even years to measure. So the further you go away, the harder it will be to measure. So this is also why many companies focus on micro conversion rates, bounce rates, and so on. You can measure some things with that, but you can never prove the business impact and the long-term business impact if you still test on micro conversion rate. So yeah, I agree. We are kind of business optimizers. Go out there, look at the consultancies, look what they're doing. They're doing this with gut feeling, not data-driven. So of course, everybody who's able to run proper A/B tests must be the 10 times better consultant for business optimization instead of conversion rate optimization.
Yeah, excellent. So, Andre, last question for you, as we are in this e-commerce growth show. Tell us your growth hack to become a better individual, a better person, to be happy.
I'd say read Mark Manson, the subtle art of not giving a fuck. Everything is already written in that book. I couldn't agree more. Your personal luck depends on your own metrics that you see as proxy metric for your success, and you can change these metrics. That's a basic outcome of that book. Read it. Mark mentioned, great guy. Or listen to the audio book. He reads it in such a fantastic way. I have to read it again. or listen to it.
Listen to it again.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, Andre, thanks a lot for being part of the e-commerce growth show.
You're very welcome.
People reach out to you if they want to follow you?
Yeah, sure. You can find me on Twitter, LinkedIn, and so on. Yeah.
Excellent. So that was André Morys. Thanks again, Andre, and thanks all of you for watching, and we'll see each other on the next Thursday when we'll have the next episode of e-commerce growth show. It's going to be a special episode because it's going to be my birthday. 40 years.
Oh, great. Thanks for having me.
All the best.
Bye-bye.
From Bucharest. Bye, guys.